What is going on, IK fam? BN, I'm back again today for a real talk slash deep video. And this is one that really hits home for me because I think it's really important to talk about this, which is the Contention of Lords slash kill event. And a brief overview is this is just a PvP event, right? So you get, for each 1 point of honor, right, or for each point of honor, you get a point going towards the kill event leaderboard. And this will garner you rewards, right, which are somewhat decent at the top and a little bit better than some of the other events when comparing to somewhat that have similar criteria. And the objective, really, like, the event lasts, I think, a few days. I think this one lasted 2 days or so. And actually, maybe it's 3 days. I have to remember. So 31. Oh, it is just 2 days. Cool. So 2 days, we figured it out. And I want to talk about the importance of kill event. The challenges that can come from it, and how it just affects your server as a whole. Now, let me start with a little history. The TLDR here is for you guys who maybe have or have not seen my server history trend video that I did a couple videos ago. It talks about, we look at servers 1 through 7, right? We do an in-depth look where I walk you through each server. We go into each server because I have a level 11 account in each of them, and we look at the overall activity, right? We give some average estimates, and we look at some other criteria as well. And what we were able to gather is that a lot of the older servers, players from those servers left older servers to go to newer servers. Now, of course, the interval times between new servers opening was a lot longer back then when server 1 started compared to how it is now with server 10 being open. And you essentially had, because the way that the kingdoms are set up, right? When you log into IK, you go to a new kingdom, right? You can go wherever you want. In other games, you might have certain areas sectionalized. You might have like a couple zones where, for example, Drifta is a province. You might have this blocked off at this border, and you have to either progress the server enough, or you have to get to a certain power to where you can attack something like a pass or a gate. Or maybe you have it in other games where it's like a circle formation, and you have like Zone 1 is the outer, Zone 2 is the inner, and Zone 3 would be like the forbidden zone. But in IK, you can go anywhere you want. You could essentially go and attack anyone you want from one corner of the map to the other corner of the map day one. And because of this, the way that a kill event is approached is going to be different than how you might do it in other games. Now, some things will probably be similar, but I want to talk about that because these are some of the challenges that older servers have faced, right? Because you have the first 8 servers, which are essentially beta servers, and then you have server 9 and onward, which is the global relaunch, right? So the official release servers that started from January 28th when the game officially released. And essentially what has happened is that as you progress the server more, and you really get to like the level 5 cities, which are the capitals specifically, which are here at Filra, and then you have Kratos, and then you have a Nyx, right? These are the level 5 cities, the level 5 capital cities. Now, these are the only cities that are going to provide you gold, right? Which are the capital cities. And gold is literally the most finite resource in the game, right? So it is vastly important to try and capture these cities or just get as much gold production or gold generation as you can from any resource in the game. And because of this, this is typically around the time when you would start seeing alliances potentially fight for some of these finite resources, right? Higher valued resources. Then, right, so imagine you have alliances that are fighting as the kingdom's progressing, and then in addition, once kill event comes up, because no one's really coming together thus far, right, and speaking to all the other leaders and saying, hey, how are we going to manage this, right, so we don't end up losing activity or losing server or, right, having bad server health. And it essentially just becomes a free-for-all, which for the most part is really what servers 1 through 7 have done. There's one server that someone had told me they tried to do something, but because I just don't know enough information about it, I can't really speak on it. But what I can tell you is that from the overall decline of activity we've seen, mainly from servers 1 through 6, I would say, even though it's really more like 1 through 5, and then you have servers 6 and 7, right, who still have good activity, but again, all the servers 1 through 7 so far have been losing activity. It's just that the older servers have lost more because of things like a kill event just not really being managed in a way and it just kind of being a free-for-all on top of just the endless fighting, right? And that can come from alliances just wanting to be number 1 after their faction or number 1 overall, or maybe it's from 1 or 2 alliances just wanting the best cities for themselves, right? So they just kind of monopolize and take over. Maybe you have some kind of like a mega alliance or a dual mega alliance structure where you have one or two alliances that are just way above the rest, right? Server 5 is an example of that. If you look at that, right, you have like the top two alliances that are really above, with the number one alliance being well above the number two, and so right, these are all just factors that go into it. Now, the thing I want to touch on is what we're doing in Server 8 that I like as ideas for how to manage and I think run a proper kill event. Now, one of the things we did early is we established an S8 council, right? Which you can see here is we have an alliance directorate. We have about 50 plus people in here with about 25 of the top 25 alliances, and we have at least I think a leader in R6 from each of the top 20 alliances, right? And we have an alliance directory here as well. This is just a side server I set up, right, where we have these listed so people can see who to contact if necessary. We have an announcement board. We do votes. We have a council chat and officer chat that's separated. Officers can view the council chat, so that way the leaders are held accountable and they're actually active and going to participate. And then we have topics like City Siege event, Titan Tula, the kill event, Supreme Alliance will probably add here as well. And just to give you an example, right, we set this up within the first few days of Server 8 because we really wanted to make sure that we were making a good effort to establish some level of structure and organization. Now, on the flip side, our family, which is the Syndicate family, right, we came into Server 8 with at least 6 alliances. Right, we have SS, SO, we have HLS, TSP, SYP, and then I think SOP is somewhere a little bit farther down here. Still got to give a shout out, but SOP, they got a little bit of a late start. But we did come in with 6 alliances, right, where we currently have 5 alliances, in the top 8? Top 8, right? So, again, the reason why we did it this way is because we saw how other older servers were being managed with you just kind of going into an alliance and hoping for the best. And we didn't want to just leave everything up to chance, right? We wanted to come in with some structure that we could help establish a foundation for the kingdom with the idea of sharing with all the top alliances. And you can see that based on the faction power, right? If you look at faction power right now, right, we're not number one, right? There's even other alliances like Lion, Eni are higher, Tartarus is higher, right? And so, again, you have a lot of good city distribution that's happening. And that's mainly because of how we wanted to come in and set it up. But without getting too far off topic, let me go into the meat of it all, which is doing the kill event, right? And so what we decided to do for the first KE is we said, we're going to have the Forbidden Zone be where all the PvP fighting goes for players that are in alliances. For players that are not in alliances, those players can be attacked anywhere on the map. Farmers can be attacked at RSS tiles anywhere on the map. And, right, those were probably the 3 big ones. Now, as I'm sure some of you can probably think at this point, right, some of you might agree, might disagree with that. The way that we approached it, and this is really how I wanted to do it going into the first KE, but we did make adjustments and adaptations because we wanted to try and take in suggestions and feedback from other alliance leaders in S8, right? So it wasn't just us coming out and saying, hey, this is how we wanted to do it, right? We wanted the first KE to be somewhat minimized, which it has been so far, which is great. And then at the same time, we wanted to leave some room open for when we eventually make an adaptation going into the second KE. And so there's 2 ideas now beyond that we are going to try for our next KE and maybe the third, depending on how the second one goes, which will be in the next, I think, 12 or 13 days from now. And the next idea, because what we have found out is that some players are basically sitting outside the Forbidden Zone attacking into the Forbidden Zone or vice versa, right? They're in the Forbidden Zone attacking outside of it. And then you have situations where people have their farmers that are hit, and then they think that that's okay to go and attack a city. And basically, this just shows you that there's gray areas and loopholes when things are just not defined clearly enough. And typically what happens is if you add on more rules, it just means that there's potentially more gray area and loopholes that you have to go through, right, to make sure you define what is and what isn't, right, or what can or can't be done. So what we're going to try next is actually just doing a straight, we're only going to do PvP in the Forbidden Zone, and that's for any and all PvP, right? That means no player attacks, no farmer attacks can be done, no fighting at all can be done outside of the Forbidden Zone. Everything has to be done in the Forbidden Zone, and you can only attack players in the Forbidden Zone when your city is inside the Forbidden Zone, right? So, again, we'll have to make sure that we really clarify the context of the language, but all in all, that's what we're going to try most likely going into the next KE. Another idea that's been proposed has been doing like a level up tier, where or like a down level tier, where you say, okay, you can attack players that are 3 city levels lower than yours, right? And then anyone above your city levels you can attack. I do actually think that this is somewhat of an okay idea, but it just has to be fine-tuned a little bit, because the challenge is that if you look at people at the castle levels of like our top player Jojo, if we say, hey, you can only attack people that are 3 levels lower, well, that means he only has 5 targets, because he could only go down to castle level 30. So I think for the top players, you could go maybe 5, 6, or 7 levels lower after you hit a certain threshold. Like you could say something like anyone who's over castle level 30 can attack 5 or 6 castle levels below. But then anyone who's under 30 can only attack 3 levels lower, or maybe you break it off again, right? Where you say anyone below anyone at castle level 27 can only attack 4 levels lower, right? Again, you might have to tier it off, but I think it can work. It's just going to take a little more effort to really figure that out, because not every server is going to be the same. You guys may not have, right? Some people might have players at higher castle levels than we do when you're 19, 20 days in or lower, right? And you'll have to adapt that a little bit more. So anyways, I just wanted to share some. I'd love to hear what you guys think as well. I know I kind of gave like a long history lesson along with talking about kill events and the benefits from it and the pros and cons and what we're doing, but I would love to hear what you have done if you're on an older server, or if you're on a newer server, or even if you just have an idea or a suggestion that you think can work in a server that will allow for you to retain as many players as possible and still keep your activity high while allowing for players to have fun, but not losing too much, so to speak. And again, you guys can let me know down in the comments below. As always, if you guys want to check out our S8 Discord, any of the official IK resources, you can find those in the description down below. And until next time, peace.